This next fly is a pattern that I have designed using some new materials. They're just out on the market. The fly is called a 49er. We're using a black up-eye hook, in this particular case a Mustad 36890. We start our black thread at the back of the hook. The material we're going to use on this is sold as Light Bright or Fly Shabu Dubbing and several other name brands depending on who you buy it from. We're going to form a body on this by using a dubbing loop. Form a dubbing loop, you just pull thread out around your fingers and then go back to the point where the thread comes off the hook and make several wraps back over it. This forms a continuous loop. And we're going to run our fingers or our thread back up to the front and set it aside. Light Bright is very fine shredded mylar. Slightly difficult to work with, but I'll show you some things that'll make it a little bit easier. You can't take this material and roll it in the palm of your hand and make it in any kind of a noodle or loop or anything. You have to just kind of pull it apart and kind of match the fibers back together so you get a continuous area of fibers. There are some a lot longer, some a lot shorter, but those will actually work to help us out. I'm going to take this dubbing now and we're going to put it in the loop. And when you use a dubbing loop, the important parts are you catch the front of the material in the loop and you catch the back of the material in the loop. The ones down the center that aren't in the loop doesn't matter because when you're going to spin this, it creates a nice piece of material for the body of the fly. After you have the material spun into a nice shaped body, thin at one end, fatter in the middle, and then tapers out to thin again, you start your wrapping. Grab it with a pair of hackle pliers so you don't lose it, or otherwise it will all come apart and you have to start over. We'll make our first wrap right at the start of the bend of the hook. Then we're going to place the wraps side by side. As you get into the middle where the material is thicker, you can spread the wraps out a little bit. Work our way up toward the front. You want the last part of the loop to just leave you a little bit of room behind the eye of the hook for the wing. I'm going to cross the material twice, go behind the material twice or 3 times, and then cut off the excess. The material can kind of be brushed back a little bit. Anything that's really wild or long can be trimmed down to give a little bit better taper. This material isn't like hair. It isn't fat on one end and thin on the other. It's equal distance or equal width all the way through, so you can trim it without creating any problems for yourself. Now I'm going to wrap a little bit of a base of thread up behind the eye of the hook. This fly was designed to more or less mimic a little rainbow trout. So after the bottom part of the body, the sparkly white part, we're going to add a little bit of a wing of pink, Light Bright. We're going to do the same thing we did on the white. We're going to kind of spread them out a little bit. When you use this material as a wing, rather than try to get one end even to tie your wing in, it's easiest to pull them all out into a one length of material type area and then fold them. When you fold them over, now you have a tapered back end. We can go right up to the front and cut the excess. 2 soft wraps in and then pull straight down, and that secures your wing in place. We can put a few more wraps over it to make sure it's not going anywhere. And we can do the same thing we did with the body. Any of them that are really wild, we can kind of trim back a little bit. We don't want to trim it too much to length yet, just the ones that are really unruly on the top and the bottom sides areas. For the top of the fly, we're going to use Light Bright, but we will also use it in a rainbow color. Same type of thing we've done with the other 2 colors. We match it together best we can. All the wild short ones we can pull back, put back together, and then fold it in the middle, and then cut the excess. Lay it right into where we want it to be, 2 soft loops over it, and then you can pull straight down. Now we want the thread to work its way as far up as we can get it on the material that way, not slide down to the eye of the hook. If you have trouble getting your thread to go up on top of the material, you can spin the thread. Like if we start to go around this way and the thread comes out over the eye of the hook and doesn't catch your material, all you have to do is let your bobbin hang down and spin it counterclockwise. When you stop your bobbin, now when you go up over the material, it kicks to the left up over the wing material and secures it in place. Anything that's wild and sticks out can be brushed back. Now we're going to form a little head of thread just to make sure our fly is not going to come apart on us first time we catch fish. I'm going to throw in my 2 half hitches. Now, on trimming the body, if you cut the material on top to try to make a taper, then these short pieces stick up and give it a natural appearance. So to trim the shape of the body to get it to flow in a nice arch like a fish, you can cut all the out of the ordinary pieces out to the sides, and when you trim to get the shape, you go underneath and slide your scissors out very carefully as you trim. Again, get rid of any of the real wild ones. Now when your fly is in the water, where the lack of material is here will allow the body to taper back and give you the proper shape for a minnow imitation. This fly is best fished on the swing down and across, and it's extremely effective in not only rivers but also in lakes.